1 in 5 Canadians suffered from some form of mental illness problem. Today's guest is an amazing gentleman, went through 19 years of a prescription drug for bipolar, was able to come out the other side and shows us that there is hope. I'd like to introduce Ross McKenzie. Thank you so much, Ross.
Thank you, Reginald.
Your story in itself is amazing. You know, when you talk about your 19 years you went through with the prescription drugs, you also talked about a time when there was a foggy haze. What I want you to start out with is just begin with when you first got diagnosed with bipolar. What did the doctors share with you at that time?
Well, it was a pretty traumatic time. I was going through a psychotic state. I later in years kind of discovered what that was. We can talk about that after. But what was important was that in this very vulnerable state, the psychiatrist basically said, you know, chalk it up, kid. You know, get yourself a little sales job. You're not going to really be able to achieve much in life. And chalk it up. You have this disease, bipolar. You have it for life, and you're going to have to take this medication for life. And
that's lithium, right?
Yeah, that was lithium. And that was, you know, I feel myself fortunate. That was the only one I had to deal with getting off of. Yeah, it was a very challenging thing because here I was in a very vulnerable state, and I just feel that, and you know, I still hear stories today where people are being told that, and I just think, I kind of refer it to the term as like hope robbers. It's like here's someone going through a vulnerable state, and you're just taking all their hope away and saying this is a permanent disease. And I think there's a huge amount of trauma that I actually had just to work through and deal with about just that experience, you know.
Within the veteran community and also within the first responders, there's an awful lot of individuals that have PTSD and other mental health problems. What I'm finding is at one point you pointed out with the root cause, getting to the root cause, and I feel that could help an awful lot of individuals because right now, I know when I served in the military, PTSD was sort of hush-hush, right? I very much within your documentary, really looking forward to it. It's going to be airing on Global. What I want you to talk about is getting to the root cause, what you mean by that subject.
Well, it's a huge thing that I talk about with as far as education, and a big part of my passion and mission moving forward is that, you know, when I realized when I was first had that hospitalization and I felt like it was so one-dimensional. And I came out of that experience and just thought, you know, I need to go on this journey. And I used the journey to kind of explore and investigate all forms of medicine, all forms of healing, all forms of therapies. And I tried a lot of different things. But that's really what I talk about is I encourage people, you know, my journey is my own journey. I think we're all unique individuals. And there's unique reasons why we have symptoms. And I think it takes an individual journey, but I think an integrated health journey of really exploring and getting to the root cause of there's so many different reasons people can be experiencing symptoms. It could be something physiological. People could have something going on with their thyroids. People could be having post-traumatic stress symptoms. People could be having, you know, I recently learned about something called pyroluria, which is basically it's a deficiency in B6 and zinc in the body. And when that happens, the manifestation is depression and anxiety and bipolar symptoms. So I think when people just take the time to really investigate what, you know, and just going through each door, whatever that may be, I think, you know, that's what I found. It's just the amazing thing of synchronicity that when you just open one door and another door opens, and through that journey that was just a winding road journey, I was able to get to the root cause of the symptoms. And so I just say, hey, take your journey, figure out what it is. And, you know, I just think the possibilities of healing these symptoms, because I don't refer to them as labels and diseases for life. These are symptoms, and I also believe these symptoms can be looked at as gifts that when you really go deep in and you uncover them and you heal them, there's a huge payoff on the other side.
What were some of the side effects that lithium you went through, and since you've been able to wean yourself off of lithium, are you still feeling those side effects to this date?
You know, it took about, I would say, because it was in February 2010 when I officially detoxed off of lithium. In all reality, probably for me, it took about 2 years to really feel myself start to come back to balance because all those years, lithium, it's affecting so many different systems in the body and challenging them in different ways. So yeah, it was not an immediate overnight thing. I did feel month after month, and it was amazing just to feel myself. The biggest thing, because the side effects that I was experiencing were, you know, lethargy, weakness, tiredness, brain fog, and just in general, just an emotional flatline. So when I was able to actually detox, I all of a sudden felt my life force coming back. And it didn't even dawn on me just how flatlined I was until all of a sudden I was like, wow, this is myself coming back to life. And, you know, and here I was at 38 years old, so from 21 to 38, just being flatlined and going, oh, wow, a huge part of what was causing symptoms was just the side effects of lithium.
When you're talking about that foggy haze that you went through, that exact same term, I have a friend that also has bipolar. He was described it the same way. What I want you to do is to share with people what that felt like, because a lot of people, you know, they've never experienced it, so all they can do is just, they're looking back and they're not exactly aware of what it is.
Yeah, I think you know, one thing I can refer to is a gentleman by the name of Dr. Peter Bregan, and he's been really wanting to awaken to some of the challenges that we have with the system and with you know, overdiagnosing, over medication. And in the book he wrote called Medication Spellbinding, and what he's referring to when he says that is a lot of people get on these medications and they think they're doing much better when in fact they're doing much worse. So just in my own experience, it was just finally being able to get off and just, again, just feeling the life course come back. It was an awakening for me going, I had no idea. And, you know, I think the biggest challenge, and I see this with people today that are still, you know, they've been diagnosed, they've been medicated. Some people that are just experiencing more symptoms and more side effects than actually benefits. And I can relate so much to these people because I know for me, I was witnessing kind of friends, you know, build careers and have families and all the things that I wanted, but I was literally like in this, you know, foggy state. I couldn't get things going. So, you know, when I hear that with people now that are struggling, I just, you know, that's just why I'm saying, hey, there's hope, there's possibilities, and you know, if medication plus an integrated therapy is part of your path, or if getting off completely, there's lots of different possibilities out there. But again, medications are only going to be kind of a Band-Aid, and they're not going to, it actually in many ways can make things more challenging to get to the root cause. So by being able to safely detox while at the same time getting to the root cause, there's the possibilities for getting one's life back.
One thing that you were talking about, you don't want to provoke, you just want to raise you know, questions to provide choices to people, just as we were talking about earlier.
Right.
And in addition, as you're talking about the Band-Aid, reading through some other things that you're discussing with people, and it talked about how most of the prescription drugs are meant for short term. Mm-hmm. You know, the long-term use it does damage to the brain. You know, I noticed that you're going to be discussing that in your documentary. Who other doctors were that you talked about in reference to that?
There's a number. I mean, again, Dr. Peter Bregan has been at this for many decades now. There's, Dr. Alan Francis, lead task force member of the DSM-4 Diagnostic Statistics Manual. He's been on a campaign for the last 2.5 years talking about these challenges. And I think that's the problem, is that we've got a situation where these medications were only meant to be short-term solutions and for very, you know, maybe in very extreme states. And I agree with that. I think there's a place for it. But I think what's starting to be uncovered now in the research is that over the long term, these medications, you know, maybe the efficacy of them is wearing off, and then the side effects of what's happening and what it's doing to the body, and then the side effects that are leading to more drugs, and next thing you know, you're on a cocktail, and then you're really not functioning. And it's just, it's that long-term effect that I think only now we're just starting to come to light. The challenges that's presenting, you know, disability numbers going through the roof because of people that are just, you know, where the medications are actually just causing more harm than good. And so I think if we can get back to that place of just saying, hey, there's a place for this, but hey, these were meant to be short term, these weren't meant to be lifelong. And again, Dr. Peter Bregan talks about it. He goes, the challenges over the long term, the very things that were being kind of talked about, that these are correcting chemical imbalances, because it's the opposite. These chemicals long term actually are causing chemical imbalances, and that's you know, it's a slippery slope that we need to address as a society.
And also we have to realize that, you know, the healthcare system in Canada, a lot of people are thinking it's universal, but it's starting to crumble. You know, financially, we can't afford what we're now doing, and we have to look for alternative choices, just as you're suggesting and other doctors you talked to suggested. Really looking forward to seeing that documentary. What I want you to do is, you know, when you're doing the documentary, did this affect you in any way when you had to look back to, wow, I've lived through all that?
You know, it was, for me, when the documentary came as a possibility and started doing it, it was such a, even way back when I had the hospitalization, I had this kind of this vision. I thought, you know, one day when I get to the other side of this, I really want to be able to make a film about this and educate. I had no idea of the time frame or how long it was going to take. So diving in, It was a huge thing for me because I hadn't been in any kind of a work environment like that before. And so all of a sudden here I am coming back to life and I'm thrust into it. And I'm working with a very high level production company here in Toronto. And so it was exciting and it was daunting a lot of the times. But for me, it was so important. I guess it was the passion of just wanting to say, I have to share the story and I have to share what this is all about, and I have to share the challenges that are coming up, because I think a lot of people just don't know that there are options and there are other possibilities, and I think by bringing in other possibilities, I think that's going to do a good thing in general as we move forward, because again, this one-dimensional approach is spiking disability, spiking these things. If we can get people that are doing an integrated journey, then I think disability numbers are going to come down, and I think just people's health in general by actually dealing with the actual symptoms as opposed to just the Band-Aids, I think we're going to be in better shape.
And the website that if people want to send you an email, may have a question, they may have going through mental illness themselves or know someone that's going through it, may want some suggestions. Your website? Yeah,
so I just launched a website called bravewellbeing.com. People can also get me through the film website, which is bipolarizedthemovie.com. So either way, it all comes directly to me. And that's one of the things I'm doing now is I'm doing consulting and just helping people through. I don't claim to be a doctor. I don't claim to have all the answers. But what I feel really encouraged about is I've just gathered a great team of experts and people in all different forms of medicine and therapies and healing. And so as I work with people and consult with people, I'm number one, I'm someone who's been through the journey and come out the other side, so I can kind of be a cheerleader in that sense and say, hey, I've been there. Yes, there's going to be challenging times. There is a payoff. Just stick with it. And also just let people know. I could kind of just get a sense, and depending on where they're at and what their goals are, and make suggestions on going, there's this person, there's that person, and just depending on what their goals, what their budget is, what they're able to afford. Because, one challenge with this was a lot of this health journey was out of pocket. A lot of these things aren't covered by OHIP. I think it would be amazing. I would love to see in my lifetime things like naturopathic medicine, some of these alternative therapies be brought into our OHIP plan, because I think that's just going to be a benefit to the individual going through things, and just, again, society as a whole down the road. I think there'll be a lot of improvement instead of, again, the one-dimensional doctor diagnosis drugs.
Your film, Bipolarized, actually won an award at a film festival. You mentioned it just before we began the interview. Mm-hmm. What I'd like you to do is to share that, where you won the award and, some of the feedback you received at that time.
Right. So this was a great festival. We've been touring the film at festivals throughout, but this was one I was most looking forward to, because I felt like in a lot of ways it was my peers. There's a gentleman in the film named Robert Whitaker, who is an investigative journalist. And so this was his festival, and it was the first time they'd put it on. So the whole focus was films on mental health, and it was films from all over the world, really talking about how can we rethink and how can we start to move out of the systems that's not so beneficial, and how can we work to more a real holistic model for people. And places like Sweden, Finland, really on the cutting edge of what's going on when it comes to treatment. So we at the end of the film festival, we won Best Feature Documentary Film, and there was psychiatrists there was activists, there was lawyers, nurses, therapists, psychologists. So it was exciting, because it was like to be able to kind of receive the kudos from that group and be received, and really, since then, hearing from more of them and blogging for their site, and also being able to attract in some of the psychiatrists there that are really at the leading edge of wanting to help to rediscuss this whole idea of what is mental health and how are we treating this. It's a group that I feel really proud to be a part of now, because we're a small group, but it's growing, and I think a lot of work ahead. I think even till the last breath in this life, I'll be working on it. But I'm excited, because I think this group is just really wanting to bring people aware and awakened, and just know that people can just make informed decisions.
What do we get to look forward to from the future now that Bipolarized is going to be showing on a global?
Right.
What other documentaries are you looking at, and maybe other projects you're looking into?
Well, the next thing I'm working on right now, I'm excited. So the person who was a naturopathic doctor in the film, Dr. John Dempster, he became a good buddy through this filmmaking process. And he and I have come together recently, and we're putting together a project. We're putting together, it's called a Mental Wellness Summit. There's lots of different summits going on right now. It's a popular thing, taking different kind of things in medicine and getting experts. So the mental health one hasn't been done yet, so we're hoping to be the first into the space. And he's, you know, bringing a lot of people that are kind of in his sphere in orthomolecular medicine and naturopathy, and I'm bringing people that I've gotten together and you know, in safe medication detox, and just alternative therapies, ways to deal with post-traumatic stress. And so we've got about 3/4 of our kind of dream team together, whereas a few more we're gathering. February we're going to be doing it, and it's all going to be online. And the goal is just to really, it's about kind of psychiatrists will be talking about how, you know, how have we arrived at this place first, you know, how have we arrived at this situation, and then experts, therapists, healers, doctors talking about all the different possibilities of integrated ways of dealing with this. And so we're looking to do it in February, where we'll be doing an interview style and then packaging that and having it all online. And I think it's just going to be a lot of really amazing information for people that just going to give them a more broad picture.
So that'll be available on your website, and, you know, probably coming late spring, early summer 2015.
Exactly, yeah. We'll be kind of in production and doing the interviews in February, and so I'm hoping by spring, early summer, we'll be having it available.
You know, you're truly
amazing.
About that. You know, thank you so much for your time, and I wish you the best with all your projects.
Thanks so much. Thanks for doing this.